Ever notice how women rarely come right out and tell you they're interested? You could be sitting there wondering if she's into you while she's secretly hoping you'll make a move. And here's the thing. She's probably dropping signs all around you that you're completely missing. The most painful part? When you finally realize those signals months later, long after the opportunity has passed. If you've ever kicked yourself thinking, "How did I miss that?" This is for you. Because the truth nobody's telling you is that women communicate interest through behavior far more than words, and they expect you to understand this hidden language without a manual. After studying female psychology for years and coaching hundreds of men through these exact situations, I can tell you something that might surprise you. Women aren't trying to confuse you on purpose. In fact, in her mind, she's being incredibly obvious about her interest. The disconnect happens because men and women are literally wired to communicate differently at a neurobiological level. Men typically communicate more directly, while women often communicate through subtle cues, body language, and what psychologists call covert contracts. Unspoken expectations that you'll pick up on what she's putting down without her having to spell it out. I totally get the frustration. You're left trying to decode what feels like an impossible puzzle, afraid of misreading signals and making a move when she's just being friendly. Or worse, missing your shot with someone who was practically begging you to take things to the next level. This uncertainty keeps countless men stuck in the friend zone or completely missing connections with women who genuinely wanted them. The good news? Once you understand these signals, they become as clear as day. And that's exactly what I am going to show you. The female mind processes attraction differently than the male mind. While you might know immediately if you re-attracted to someone, women's attraction often builds over time and through specific interactions. Evolution has programmed women to be more selective and cautious about showing interest due to the higher biological investment they face in reproduction. This isn't a T-conscious calculation. It's hardwired behavior that influences modern dating dynamics even when reproduction isn't a T the goal. Understanding this fundamental difference is your first step toward recognizing when she actually wants you. Now let's get into the first sign she's interested but one to directly tell you. The first unmistakable sign is what I call proximity engineering. BART. When a woman is attracted to you, she'll consistently find ways to be physically near you, even when there's no practical reason. She'll choose the seat next to yours in a meeting when others are available. She'll suddenly appear at the coffee shop she knows you frequent. She'll join conversations you're part of at social gatherings, or position herself in your line of sight repeatedly. Last month, I was coaching Ryan from Chicago, who couldn't understand why this woman from his friend group always seemed to show up wherever he was. She wasn't being obvious in any other way. No flirting, no touching, just constant proximity. After we talked about this principle, he realized she'd been engineering these coincidences for weeks. They're redating now. The second sign is what psychologists call extended eye contact. When we look at someone we had re-attracted to, our pupils dilate and we tend to maintain eye contact slightly longer than normal social conventions dictate. If you notice her holding your gaze for just a beat or two longer than necessary, or if you catch her looking at you across the room and she doesn't immediately look away when caught, that's a strong indicator of interest. The science behind this is fascinating. Extended eye contact actually triggers the release of phenylethylamine, PEA, the same chemical released during other pleasurable activities. She's literally getting a chemical reward in her brain when she looks at you, and her body is seeking more of it. The third sign is selective responsiveness. She replies to your messages quickly and consistently while being notoriously slow with others. In today's digital world, response time is one of the clearest indicators of priority. We all check our phones dozens of times daily, so the "I was busy" and excuse rarely holds water. If she's replying to you within minutes while making her friends wait hours, she's telling you something important through her actions. I coached Kevin from Boston, who was confused because this woman from his workplace would take ages to respond to work-related group messages, but would answer his personal texts almost immediately. That contrast in behavior wasn't random. It was a clear sign of attraction she wouldn't verbally admit in a professional context. The fourth sign that she wants you but one, to say it directly, is what I call unnecessary touching. Touch is an incredibly powerful communicator of interest, and women instinctively know this. When she's finding excuses to initiate physical contact, touching your arm while laughing, fixing your collar, brushing something off your shoulder, letting her knee rest against yours under the table. She's communicating interest through physical channels. These touches might seem casual or accidental, but they rarely are. The female brain is extremely conscious of physical boundaries, and crossing them is almost always intentional when attraction is involved. The fifth sign she wants you but one T admit it is what relationship psychologists call mirroring behavior. This goes deeper than just copying your physical movements, though that's part of it. When she's attracted to you, she'll unconsciously adopt your phrases, your interests, your mannerisms, and even your opinions on certain topics. It's a profound psychological phenomenon that happens below conscious awareness. If you mention loving a particular band and suddenly she's listening to their music, or if you use a unique expression and she begins incorporating it into her vocabulary, that's mirroring in action. The behavioral science behind this is fascinating. Mirroring activates the brain's bonding mechanisms by creating a sense of similarity and connection. It's like her subconscious is saying, "See how much we have in common? We're recompatible." And she's not faking it. This happens naturally when genuine attraction exists. I was working with Tyler from Seattle, who couldn't figure out why this woman from his social circle suddenly developed an interest in rock climbing after he mentioned it was his passion. She'd never shown any interest in outdoor activities before, but suddenly she was asking about gear recommendations and watching climbing videos. This wasn't random. It was her attraction speaking through behavior rather than words. Women rarely announce their interest in you directly, but they'll invest time and energy into the things you care about when they are attracted. It's a form of what evolutionary psychologists call fitness testing. She's seeing if your worlds can blend together successfully. The sixth sign is what I call invested curiosity. She asks detailed personal questions and actually remembers your answers. Think about it. We all have limited mental bandwidth and tend to store information we consider valuable. When she remembers the name of your childhood dog, your sister's job, or that trip you took 3 years ago that you mentioned once in passing, that's not just good listening. It's selective attention driven by attraction. The female brain literally creates more neural connections around information related to potential romantic partners. I've seen this countless times in my coaching practice. Women who claim to have terrible memories somehow have encyclopedic recall when it comes to details about men they re-interested in. Mason from Philadelphia experienced this firsthand with a coworker he did not initially see as interested in him. During a team lunch, she casually mentioned that the restaurant served the bourbon he once said was his favorite. He was shocked she'd remembered such a specific detail from a brief conversation months earlier. This selective memory wasn't coincidence. It was her attraction creating preferential storage for information about him. What makes this sign so powerful is that it can be easily faked. We simply don't retain detailed information about people we were not genuinely interested in, no matter how hard we try. The seventh sign that she wants you but one, directly say it is what communication experts call preening behaviors. These are the subtle grooming adjustments women make when attracted to someone. Fixing her hair, reapplying lip gloss, adjusting her clothing to enhance her appearance when she knows she'll see you. These behaviors are deeply rooted in evolutionary biology. They were modern versions of ancient mating displays. The key insight is noticing when these behaviors happen selectively around you versus other men. If she's constantly ensuring she looks her best in your presence specifically, that's not vanity. It's attraction speaking through actions rather than words. Beyond these 7 primary signs, there's a constellation of secondary behaviors that reinforce the message. One powerful indicator is what social psychologists call triangulation testing. She mentions other men or creates scenarios involving male attention to gauge your reaction. If she brings up that some guy at work asked her out or casually mentions male attention she receives, she's not bragging. She's fishing for your jealousy response to confirm your interest. The female mind instinctively tests for investment before revealing vulnerability, and jealousy indicators are a quick way to measure your emotional investment. Another subtle but telling sign is what I call future projection. She regularly makes casual references to activities or events involving you that would take place weeks or months in the future. That new restaurant opening next month looks amazing, we should check it out. Or, that concert next summer would be fun to attend. These are not just casual comments, they're retrial balloons testing your receptiveness to continued connection. Women rarely make these forward-looking statements with men they aren't interested in maintaining a relationship with. When a woman includes you in her future timeline, she's revealing attraction she may not verbally acknowledge. The complexity of female attraction signals explains why so many men miss opportunities with women who were genuinely interested. Our educational system teaches us math, science, and history, but nobody teaches us to decode these critical social signals that determine our romantic success. These indicators aren't random or accidental. They were consistent patterns observed across cultures and throughout human history. The biology driving them remains remarkably stable even as social norms evolve. What complicates matters further is that many women aren't fully conscious of these behaviors themselves. When I interview women about these patterns, they are often surprised by their own actions when they are pointed out. I guess I do always fix my hair when he walks in. Or, I never realized I remember so much more about him than other people. This unconscious nature makes these signs both more reliable as indicators because they can be easily faked, and more challenging to recognize because they were not deliberately obvious. Understanding these signs is crucial, but recognizing them in real-world situations requires a specific approach. The first strategy for accurately identifying these signals is what I call pattern recognition over isolated incidents. Many men make the mistake of looking for single, definitive moments of interest rather than consistent patterns of behavior. One instance of her laughing at your joke might be politeness, but when she consistently finds everything you say hilarious, especially when others don't react the same way, that's attraction speaking. Train yourself to notice repetition of these behaviors over time, rather than searching for a single, unmistakable signal. I worked with James from Nashville, who was confused about a woman's interest because her signals seemed inconsistent. Some days she was all about the eye contact, proximity, and engagement. Other days she seemed more distant. What he wasn't accounting for was context. Her behavior was actually remarkably consistent when viewed through situational filters. In professional settings, she maintained appropriate boundaries but still engineered proximity. In social settings, her signals amplified significantly. Once he recognized this pattern, the consistency became clear. Women modulate their expression of interest based on social context, but the underlying patterns remain if you know what to look for. The second strategy is developing what psychologists call behavioral baseline awareness. This means paying attention to how she behaves around other people versus how she behaves around you. If she maintains 2 feet of distance when talking to everyone else but consistently stands 8 inches away from you, that contrast is significant. If she touches her hair occasionally in general conversation, but does it constantly in your presence, that differential is telling you something important. The contrast between her baseline behavior and her behavior specifically with you reveals attraction she won to verbally acknowledge. David from Austin had been misreading signals from a woman in his friend group because he didn't understand this principle. She was naturally friendly and engaged with everyone, which made her interest in him less obvious, until he noticed the subtle differences. While she asked everyone about their weekend plans, she only followed up with him afterward to hear how things went. While she smiled at everyone, her smile lingered with him. These subtle differences from her baseline behavior were actually her most honest communication of interest, but he had been missing them by not establishing the comparative baseline. The third strategy is what I call investment tracking. When someone is attracted to you, they invest disproportionate energy, time, attention, and resources in the connection. If she's going out of her way to help you with something, rearranging her schedule to be available when you are, or putting additional effort into interactions with you, that's investment signaling attraction. A woman who isn't interested simply make these consistent investments. Notice when she's willing to inconvenience herself to maintain connection with you. That's not something people do without motivation. Connor from Denver shared a perfect example of this principle. A woman from his wider social circle would regularly drive 30 minutes out of her way to attend events where he might be, despite having friends who lived much closer. She never said anything about romantic interest, but this consistent investment of time and effort, with no practical benefit beyond seeing him, was a clear signal he initially missed. Investment never lies, even when words are absent or misleading. The fourth strategy for accurately reading these signs is what behavioral scientists call stress response observation. When we around someone we attracted to, our nervous system experiences a mild stress response, increased heart rate, heightened awareness, nervous energy. Watch for physical indicators of this response: subtle fidgeting, playing with jewelry, hair touching, slight flushing of the face or chest, Speech changes like talking slightly faster or at a higher pitch. These autonomic responses can be faked because they are controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. When you notice these physiological changes specifically in your presence, you're witnessing attraction responses she may not verbally acknowledge. Alex from Philadelphia had been completely missing these stress indicators from a woman at his gym. She was normally confident and composed with everyone else, but around him, she would sometimes stumble over words or seem uncharacteristically nervous. He interpreted this as discomfort until understanding that these physiological responses were actually signs of attraction. The same system that triggers fight-or-flight responses also activates during attraction, creating observable changes in behavior that serve as honest signals of interest. The fifth strategy is developing sensitivity to what communication researchers call attention allocation patterns. We give our focused attention to what we value most in any environment. If she consistently diverts her attention from others or activities to engage with you, that's a powerful nonverbal signal of interest. Notice who she looks at when something funny happens in a group setting, who she checks in with when entering a room, whose reaction she gauges after making a comment. These attention patterns reveal priorities her words might not express. Noah from Chicago experienced this with a woman who always seemed to seek his reaction specifically during group conversations. When something interesting was discussed, she would make eye contact with him to check his response, even when others were more actively participating in the conversation. This selective attention wasn't random. It was a consistent indication that his opinion mattered more to her than others, a clear sign of attraction she never directly verbalized. Understanding these signs and strategies transforms your ability to navigate dating and relationships. Instead of operating on uncertainty and missed connections, you develop a reliable system for recognizing genuine interest. This awareness prevents two common and painful scenarios: pursuing women who show no actual interest, and missing opportunities with women who are practically begging you to make a move through every channel except verbal declaration. The most important thing to understand about female attraction is that it's rarely announced. It's demonstrated. Women have evolutionary and social reasons to communicate interest indirectly, especially in early attraction phases. By developing your ability to accurately read these signals, you position yourself to respond appropriately when real interest exists, and to avoid investing energy where it doesn't. This isn't about manipulation or games. It's about developing fluency in a communication system that's been part of human interaction for thousands of years. When you detect multiple signs of interest, how should you respond? The first principle is what psychologists call reciprocal disclosure escalation. If she's showing interest through her actions, gradually increase personal disclosure to give her opportunities to match your escalation. Share something slightly personal and see if she responds with equivalent openness. This creates a safe path toward greater emotional intimacy without putting her on the spot with direct questions about her interest. The key is incremental progression. Don't jump from casual conversation to deep vulnerability in one step. Luke from San Francisco was seeing consistent interest signals from a coworker, but wasn't sure how to navigate the situation professionally. By gradually increasing personal disclosure, mentioning weekend plans, then sharing a personal challenge he was working through, then discussing future aspirations, he created space for her to match each level of intimacy. Her willingness to meet and exceed his disclosures confirmed the interest her nonverbal signals had suggested, allowing their connection to develop naturally, without awkward direct questions about her feelings. The second principle for responding to these signs is confident acknowledgement without interrogation. When you notice her displaying multiple interest behaviors, acknowledge them indirectly through your own increased investment rather than questioning her about them. If she's consistently engineering proximity with you, confidently create opportunities for more connection rather than asking, "So do you like me or something?" This approach honors the indirect communication system women typically prefer in early attraction stages. Direct interrogation about feelings often creates pressure that causes retreat, even when interest is genuine. Jason from Seattle had been seeing strong signals from a woman in his apartment building. The proximity engineering, the extended eye contact, the selective attention when others were around. Rather than directly questioning these behaviors, he confidently invited her to an event he thought she'd enjoy. By acknowledging her signals through reciprocal interest rather than verbal questioning, He created space for the connection to develop naturally. They've been dating for 7 months now, and she recently admitted she'd been hoping he'd make a move for weeks before he finally did. The third principle is maintaining what social psychologists call attractive uncertainty. While recognizing her interest signs, avoid becoming completely predictable or overly eager in response. The human brain is wired to value what isn't completely certain, a phenomenon well documented in behavioral psychology. When you recognize her interest, respond positively, but maintain some element of mystery and challenge. This creates the space for her attraction to grow rather than immediately resolving all tension with absolute certainty. Matt from Austin saw clear interest signals from a woman he met through friends. Instead of suddenly becoming totally available and text responsive, he maintained his existing commitments and interests while making specific time for her. This balanced approach, showing clear interest without dropping everything else in his life, actually intensified her attraction rather than diminishing it. The principle of attractive uncertainty doesn't mean playing manipulative games. It means maintaining your value and independence even as the connection develops. Understanding these signs and response principles transforms how you navigate relationships with women. Instead of operating from a position of insecurity and guesswork, you are working with clear information about her actual interest level. This awareness prevents the painful experience of pursuing women who show no genuine interest, while also ensuring you don't miss opportunities with women who are communicating attraction through every channel except direct verbalization. What's most fascinating about this aspect of female psychology is how consistent these patterns remain despite cultural changes and technological advances. Whether in modern dating apps or traditional courtship scenarios, these fundamental signals of female interest have remained remarkably stable throughout human history. That's because they re-rooted in evolutionary psychology and social dynamics that transcend specific cultural contexts. The broader principle at work here is understanding that women and men typically operate on different communication frequencies. It's not that women are deliberately trying to be confusing, it's that they re-communicating through a system that prioritizes demonstration over declaration. By developing fluency in reading these signals, you are essentially learning a different language of attraction that allows for much more accurate understanding of genuine interest. The transformation this creates in your dating life is profound. No more agonizing uncertainty about whether she's interested. No more missed opportunities with women who are practically begging you to make a move through nonverbal channels. No more wasted emotional energy on connections that weren't real. Instead, you move through the world with clear perception of actual interest, allowing you to invest your time and energy where genuine potential exists. I've seen this transformation repeatedly in my coaching practice. Men who were previously completely blind to female interest signals suddenly start recognizing them everywhere. The common reaction is, "I can to believe we've been missing these signs my entire life." That's because no one ever taught us this critical aspect of social communication. Our education system covers countless topics, but fails to address one of the most important skills for relationship success: accurately reading interest signals from potential partners. The empowerment this knowledge creates isn't about manipulation or games. It's about developing genuine understanding of how attraction is communicated between men and women in ways that often transcend direct verbal expression. This understanding creates the foundation for authentic connections based on mutual interest rather than guesswork and misinterpretation. If you've found value in understanding these 7 signs and the strategies for recognizing them, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more insights into female psychology and relationship dynamics. Drop a comment below with your own experiences. Have you noticed these signals and missed them in the moment? Or have you successfully recognized them and taken action? Your experiences help other men learn and grow in this critical area of life. And if you know someone who needs this information, maybe a friend who's constantly missing obvious signals or misreading women's interest, share this video with them. Understanding these principles creates a ripple effect of more successful, fulfilling relationships built on accurate perception rather than confusion and missed connections. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore more powerful insights into female psychology that transform your relationship success.